Back at Elizabeth High School, Kevin Rohde and Brian Nickel were getting ready for the kickoff. Fort Morgan will receive the ball. Elizabeth will kick off. They have the okay from the ref to kick off. Ulysses Hernandez is the deep man. There's the kickoff. Short kickoff to the 32 and kneels down right there. So that's where Fort Morgan will take over at the 32-yard line.
Yeah, it's kind of a high little pooch kick. I don't know if that was their plan or whether they're trying to kick a little shorter and go onside with it. But certainly not kicking away to Fort Morgan's powerful kickoff return team.
So 1st and 10, Fort Morgan from the 32-yard line. Kickoff took all of 2 seconds. So Fort Morgan comes out in their flex formation. Receivers split wide to the right, one to the left. Martin's under center. Nate Alexander in motion to the left, to the right. Martins takes it upfield, and he is out to at about the 42-yard line. So he does have enough for a first down. So it's 1st and 10, Fort Morgan from the 42-yard line.
Looks like they ran the option fake to pull back up the middle to Bohm, and he kept that and then read what the corner was doing. The corner went out on the pitch man. Martin has wisely turned it upfield for a really nice first carry of the game.
Martin's with the play back to the huddle. They break the huddle up to the line. Elizabeth in a 4-man front. Martin's under center in the flex formation. Martin's takes it, hands off to Bohm up the middle for a very short gain. I believe they're going to mark it at the 43. So it'll be 2nd and 9 from the 43 for Fort Morgan.
Brian, on that play, the right cornerback for Elizabeth came all the way in, halfway in, leaving the wide receiver all alone out there. I think they're going to dare us to pass because they know that that's not our strength.
So 2nd and 9, Fort Morgan from the 43. In the flex formation, Cody Davis in motion to the left, takes the pitch, cuts it back up the middle. He is out to about the 47-yard line for Fort Morgan. That's a gain of 5. That brings up 3rd down. 3rd and 5 for Fort Morgan from the 47-yard line.
Elizabeth defensively is ganging up and getting 8 or 9 guys in on the tackle. So they must be knowing where we're going, and it's going to be tough for Fort Morgan to keep it going.
Martin's under center in the I formation. Takes it, fakes the handoff, looking downfield, and it was attempted for Eric Kimball, and it is incomplete. So that will bring up 4th and 5 for Fort Morgan. They will have to punt the ball to Elizabeth.
They were able to get to midfield almost, and that's going to help them with the field position game if they can pin Elizabeth down and maybe make them go 80 yards.
So Tony Swetzik in to punt. Jordan Buckman is deep for Elizabeth at about the 15-yard line. There's a snap back. Punt, nice punt. Lands about the 21 and rolls down inside the 5 if they can stop it. And it is down at about the 2-yard line. It's an excellent punt by Tony Swetzik. So with 9:54 left in the first period, we have no score. Elizabeth with the ball for the first time at their 2-yard line. So a word from a couple of our sponsors here. B&B Appliance at 502 Ensign in Fort Morgan can help you save water, energy, and the environment without sacrificing quality and performance. Change for the better with B&B Appliance. So 1st and 10 for Elizabeth from the 2. In the I formation, takes it off to the right side, and the pile is driven out to about the 7-yard line. It'll be 2nd and 6. 2nd and 6 from the 8-yard line.
Yeah, it was a nice carry by Buckham. Fort Morgan needs to wrap up and stop that. They had contact with him at the 2, and he was able to move the pile 6 yards downfield.
So 2nd and 4 for Elizabeth from the 8-yard line. Under center. 2 backs. Handoff up the middle. And he is brought down at about just outside the 10-yard line. So that's a gain of 2. So it'll be 3rd and 2 for Elizabeth from just outside the 10-yard line.
A little harder for Buckham to get his yardage on that one. Fort Morgan wrapping up and not allowing them to move downfield.
So 3rd and 2 from the just outside the 10-yard line for Elizabeth. 1 receiver left, 1 receiver right, 2 backs in the backfield. Takes the snap, hands off up the middle, and he is out to just outside the 15-yard line. So that's going to be a gain of 5 and enough for a first down for Elizabeth.
Yeah, it was a nice run. The first 2 were just dives to the fullback on the right-hand side, and that time it was to the tailback, Nicholas, for the first down.
So 1st and 10, Elizabeth from the 15. Fort Morgan in a 3-man front. Elizabeth snap, pitches to the right, and he is brought down at about the 12-yard line. So brought down by James Martins. 2nd and 8 from the 12-yard line for Elizabeth.
Well, Fort Morgan's defense so far is bending a little bit. They haven't given up any big plays, forcing Elizabeth to earn everything.
So 2nd and 8 from the 17. Elizabeth with her receivers left and right. I formation. Takes the snap. Keeps it. And he is open down the sideline to the 30, 35-40, 45-50, 45-40, 35-30, 25-20, 15-10, 5, touchdown, Elizabeth. With 7:13 and left in the first period, Elizabeth goes up 6-0 on an 83-yard sprint by their quarterback.
Well, that one he went around the left end and was looking to pitch. The pitch man was covered by the corner, but someone got that end hooked, and he just broke it to the outside. You know, to his credit, he's got a lot of speed, Oliver does, and he was able to get down that field and just leave some of the Fort Morgan defenders in the dust.
Try for the extra point. Ball down, kick up, and good. That makes it Elizabeth 7, Fort Morgan nothing, with 7:13 left in the first period. You're listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on B106 and B106.com. Welcome back to Elizabeth High School, where Elizabeth has just gone ahead of Fort Morgan 7-0 on an 83-yard sprint by the quarterback down the left sideline. So Elizabeth ready to kick off. Whistle from the referee. Ulysses Hernandez is deep. Takes it at the 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45, 40. It's brought back to the Cardinal 40-yard line. That was actually Nate Alexander that brought that back, not Ulysses Hernandez. So it'll be 1st and 10, Fort Morgan, from the 40-yard line.
What an exciting play for Fort Morgan to kind of get them back in there after an 83-yard touchdown run by Elizabeth. Let's hope they can put some plays together, get some first downs, and get in and score.
So 1st and 10, Fort Morgan. High formation, receivers left and right. Handoff over the right side to Nate Alexander. Takes a big hit, but he drives forward for another 2 yards, so that is a gain of 7 down to the We're going to call it 6 down to the 34-yard line.
Yeah, that was that play that they ran so many times the last couple of weeks where Bohm leads up off the right side, kicks the end in or out, and Alexander cuts off of it. It's good to see that go for 6 yards first try.
I formation. Receivers left and right. Hand off to Nate Alexander over the left side and brought down hard. Gets about 2 yards. They'll mark it at the 30. That's the 30. That's the 32-yard line. They'll bring up 3rd and 3 from the 32.
Yeah, I think he was trying to cut to avoid that tackle and lost his footing, so it looked like he got a big hit, but mostly he was just slipping down.
So 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3 from the 32 for Fort Morgan. I formation. Receivers left and right. Takes the snap. Keeps the ball. Pitches it deep to Nate Alexander around the right end. And he is driven out of bounds. That's for no gain. So that will bring up a 4th down and 3 for Fort Morgan.
That tackle made by Logan Weber is another good player for Elizabeth. He's got a lot of offensive points as well.
So it'll be 4th and 3 from the 33 for Fort Morgan. In the I formation, receivers left and right. Martin's under center, takes the snap, hands off to Nate Alexander over the right side, and he is going to be stopped short of the first down. He is going to be stopped for no gain, so that will turn the ball over to Elizabeth at the 33-yard line. So it'll be 1st and 10. Elizabeth from the 33. Valley View Villa, look to the team at Valley View for rehab, short-term, or long-term care needs. Stop by 815 Fremont or call them today, 867-8261. So 1st and 10, Elizabeth from the 33. I formation, receivers left and right. Man in motion to the left, hand off up the middle. He is going to be stopped for a very short gain. He'll have a gain of maybe 1 out to the 34. So it'll be 2nd and 9 from the 34.
Yeah, to explain Elizabeth's formation, they have Buckham at a fullback. It's kind of like an I formation, but he lines up about a yard to the right or to the left. He's lined up to the right every time. That time he shifts left, and they hand off to him. And Fort Morgan had him stopped for no gain, and he just kind of fought through the pile and got 1 yard out of it.
So 2nd and 9 from the 34 for Elizabeth. Takes the snap, pitches it to the left. Fort Morgan closes in, and he is brought down for a loss of 1 back to the 33. So that'll bring up 3rd and 10 from the 33 for Elizabeth.
I'm guessing we'll probably see Elizabeth's passing game on long yards, 3rd down, out here at the 30.
So 3rd and 10, Elizabeth from the 33. Brody Oliver, quarterback for the Cardinals. 2 receivers to the right, 1 left. He is back to pass, drops back. He's being flushed out to the side, and he is going to be dropped at about the 20. That will be a flag. There will be an intentional grounding. It's about time he was going down. He just threw the ball out of bounds to about 5 yards downfield. This is going to be a loss back to the, let's see where they're going to mark it, back to the 18-yard line. That brings up 4th and about 25 for Elizabeth.
After giving up that big 2nd down play in the first drive for 83 yards, Fort Morgan's defense has settled down and did a much better job this time.
Actually, they marked it back to about the 13-yard line. So 4th down. Nice punt. Taken by Nate Alexander at the 50, 45-40. and brought down at the 38-yard line. So it'll be 1st and 10, Fort Morgan from the 38.
That was a nice punt out of his end zone and a nice 10-yard or so return for Alexander. Fort Morgan's in business inside Elizabeth's territory.
See if Fort Morgan can take advantage of their field position. They've had excellent field position, but have not been able to move the ball. 1st and 10, Fort Morgan from the 43. Handoff up the middle to Jared Bohm. And he is stacked up at about the... Well, they said he fumbled the ball, and they've given... He is... We're trying to see if... It looks like Fort... They're going to mark it 2nd down for Fort Morgan. They're going to say his forward progress has been stopped. I thought he got to about the 35. They're still marking it at about the 37-yard line. So it'll be 2nd and 9, Fort Morgan from the 38-yard line.
Yeah, the fans from Elizabeth wishing this was the NFL. They could get the instant replay to look at that one more time. But high school football, the whistle blows. It's over with. You go with the call.
So 2nd and 9 from the 38. Fort Morgan in their I formation. Receivers left and right. Downfield, Cody Davis is open, and it was tipped away at about the 10 for an incomplete pass. That brings up 3rd and 9 for Fort Morgan from the 38-yard line.
He had Davis open there, overthrew him just a little bit. But on the other side, they're not even covering the wide receiver.
See if they can pick him up coming down the other side. They're not giving him much respect for the pass, apparently. So Fort Morgan back out. Ulysses Hernandez is the wide man to the left. Cody Davis wide right. I formation. Handoff to Nate Alexander up the middle down to the 35. Then down to he gets an extra couple of yards down to the 33-yard line. So that'll be 4th and 5 for Fort Morgan from the 33-yard line.
It'd be nice to pick up this first down here and march in and score.
So Martins, they break the huddle. Hernandez left. Cody Davis to the right. High formation. Takes the snap, looking downfield, and he's wide open on the right side for Ulysses Hernandez at the 10, and he takes it in for a Fort Morgan touchdown. Ulysses Hernandez from the 33-yard line. So 2:40 in the first period. That brings the score 7-6, Elizabeth.
You know, sometimes as coaches, you try and scout the other team, but Fort Morgan's got coaches up in the box, and I'm sure they're radioing down that that's wide open, and it's nice to see them get caught, with their hand in the cookie jar there.
So Jacob Frick on for the extra point try. Snap back, ball down, kick up, and it is good. So that ties it up with 2 minutes and 40 seconds left in the first period, 7-7. You're listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on B106 and B106.com. Welcome back to Elizabeth High School with Kevin Rohde. I'm Brian Nickel. Fort Morgan has just tied this game up at 7 on a 33-yard pass to Ulysses Hernandez going down the east sideline. The Fort Morgan ready to kick off. Got the whistle from the referee. Puts his foot into it. Coming down about the 10 at the 15-20, 25-30, and brought down at the 30, we're going to call it the 34-yard line. So it'll be 1st and 10, Elizabeth from the 34-yard line.
We'll see if Elizabeth continues to try and establish their running game. First drive, 4 runs, one of them for 83 yards and a touchdown. Second time, I think it's like 4 or 5 runs and didn't have the success. We mentioned at the beginning, Oliver's got a good arm. At some point, they're going to try and catch us.
So 1st and 10, Elizabeth. 2 receivers to the left, 1 right, and the wide receiver to the right side jump before the snap. So it'll be a false start on Elizabeth. So that'll back them up 5 yards. So that'll be 1st and 15 from the 28 for Elizabeth.
Yeah, Elizabeth, a little bit of emotion on the homecoming weekend, and they start off with a big run, and now maybe they're starting to get a little bit of a mental breakdown. Bodes well for Fort Morgan, as we mentioned at the offset that it's got to be a mistake-free game for both sides if either team's going to win.
So Elizabeth breaks the huddle up to the line. One receiver left, one receiver right. Offset eye. And in motion, hands off. No, he keeps it around the left end, pitches it out to the right, or out to the left, and is brought down at the, we'll call it just outside the 30. We'll call it the 30-yard line. So that'll bring up 2nd and 12 from the 30.
Yeah, they're running that triple option, and Fort Morgan's playing it well. No one player can forget his responsibilities. Everybody's got to read their keys, and you can cover all 3 of those options.
So 2nd down, Elizabeth. 2 receivers right, 1 left, single back in the backfield. Back to pass, looking downfield, had a little pressure, and it's downfield, and it's going to be intercepted by Cody Davis at the Fort Morgan 44-yard line. Big turnover here.
Well, Oliver ran up into the pocket when he got surrounded, and he had about 15 yards of free territory to run. I think he should have ran on that. Instead, he tried to throw, and at the last minute, a defender for Fort Morgan kind of tipped his arm, threw up a duck, and a great play by the Fort Morgan defense to step in there and get the interception.
So the minute 50 left in the first period, Fort Morgan and Elizabeth tied at 7. Fort Morgan 1st and 10 from the 44-yard line. In the I formation, takes it hands off to Nate Alexander over the right side, and he'll get 2 out to the 46-yard line. So he'll bring up 2nd and 8 from the 46.
Going back to that interception, Fort Morgan had good pressure on them, and they had everybody covered downfield, and that's why it took them so long to throw the ball. I think that's good that we're going to be able to play good pass defense against this Elizabeth team.
So 2nd and 8 from the 46. I formation, receivers left and right. Takes the ball, hands off to Nate Alexander over the left side, and there is not much room there. We're going to call it a gain of nothing. I believe he was held for no gain. That'll bring up 3rd and 8 from the 46 for Fort Morgan.
You have to give credit to the Elizabeth coaching staff. They probably watched the films the last couple Fort Morgan games. That's not how Fort Morgan lived off of that, fullback ISO off the right and left side. And so far tonight, Alexander's only got 1 run for more than 2 yards.
So a bunch of receivers to the left. Martin's back to pass. Little pass out into the flat to Cody Davis at the 40, to the 40, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Cody Davis on a one-handed catch at about the 40-yard line. That makes the score Fort Morgan 13, Elizabeth 7, with 22 seconds left in the first period.
The homecoming crowd for Elizabeth a little bit speechless and in shock. The Fort Morgan faithful that's here sitting on the home side, since there's really no bleachers on the visiting side, the only sounds we can hear is some scattered cheering.
So Fort Morgan waiting for somebody to come out so they can get the point after attempt. That was a beautiful catch by Cody Davis. So Jacob Frick in for the extra point attempt. Snap back, ball down, and it is blocked. That makes it Fort Morgan 13, Elizabeth 7, with 22 seconds left in the first period. You're listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on D106 and D106.com. Back at Elizabeth High School, Fort Morgan has just taken the lead, 13-7. Fort Morgan now kicking off to Elizabeth, and it is bouncing at the 5, that's the 4, picked up about the 2, and bringing it to the left side, out to the 20, to the 25. So it'll be 1st and 10, Elizabeth, from the 25-yard line with 12 seconds left to go in the first period.
There was a block in the back on one of the Fort Morgan defenders, but the guy ended up pushing him right into the running back. He would have broke off of that one. He would have been gone, and no one called the block in the back.
So they marked it at the 26, so it's 1st and 10 Elizabeth from the 26 with 12 seconds to go in the first period. In the shotgun formation, one receiver left, one receiver right. Takes the ball, and it's a keeper up to about the 30, so that'll be a gain of 4. So it'll be 2nd and 6 for Elizabeth at the end of the first quarter. So Fort Morgan 13, Elizabeth 7. You're listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on B106 and B106.com. Welcome back to Elizabeth High School. Along with Kevin Rohde, I'm Brian Nickel. Fort Morgan has just taken the lead at the end of the first period on a one-handed catch by Cody Davis for 54 yards that has put Fort Morgan up 13-7.
Brian, if you would have told me on the way up here that at the end of the first quarter, Fort Morgan would have 2 passing touchdowns and be ahead because of that, I think I would have wondered whether what you were thinking. But it's awful good passing by Martins tonight, and, some wide open receivers and some good catches.
So Elizabeth, single eye, looking to pass out to the left, complete at the 35, be enough for a first down. He is brought down at the 37-yard line. So it'll be 1st and 10 for Elizabeth from the 37-yard line.
Nice little kind of hitch pattern by the receiver.
Elizabeth up to the line, one receiver right, one left, single back formation in the shotgun, takes the ball out to the left. He is out to the 50-yard line. So Brody Oliver out to the 49-yard line of the Mustangs. So the 1st and 10, Elizabeth from the 49.
Looks like they're going to put the game on Brody Oliver's shoulders, whether it's running or passing. He seems to be the only one that can get the offense going for him.
So Elizabeth in the I formation, one receiver left and right. Takes the snap, hands off up the middle. He is down to about the 43, we're going to call it the 43-yard line. So it'll be second. Let's say 2nd and 4 from the 43-yard line.
Yeah, just a fullback right off the left side. He cut to the right. That's open.
So 2nd and 4 from the 43. Elizabeth, 2 receivers left, one split right, single back formation. Man in motion to the right, handoff around the right end, down to the 40, and that is where he is dropped. Cody Davis made the stop on the play. It is going to be now 3rd and 2 from the 40.
Yeah, that time they put Nicholas out left slot. He came in motion and kind of got the ball and what looked somewhat like a wildcat play.
So 3rd down for Elizabeth. In the shotgun formation, one receiver split left, one right, single back formation. Takes the snap, takes it himself around the right end, and he is going to be brought down at the 41-yard line. So he has been dropped for a loss. So that'll bring up fourth down from the 42-yard line. So that'll be 4th and 3 for Elizabeth.
Big defensive play here for the Mustangs. If they can hold them here, they'll get really good field position and have all the momentum.
So 4th down and 3 yards to go for a first down for Elizabeth. Receiver split left and right. Offset eye. Takes the snap, hands off up the middle, and he is going to be stopped short. He won't even get back to the 40. So that'll be 1st and 10, Fort Morgan from the 40-yard line. big stop for the Mustangs.
Yeah, that was huge. Only gave them 1 yard when they needed a full 3.
So with 9:04 left in the second period, Fort Morgan leads 13-7 with excellent field position at the 41-yard line.
I'm thinking that cornerback's not going to be cheating over towards the run game anymore.
So 1st and 10, I formation, takes the pitch back to Nate Alexander. He's getting around out to the outside. He is going to be stopped probably for no gain. So it'll be 2nd and 10. They're going to give him a yard. It'll be 2nd and 9 from the 42-yard line for Fort Morgan.
Again, I think Elizabeth got that play figured out. They ran it 8 times and got 6 yards once, 2 yards twice, 1 yard twice, and 3 times they can stop for no gain.
So 2nd and 9, Fort Morgan, I formation, receivers left and right. Martins hands off up the middle for a short gain of about 1 to Nate Alexander. So that'll bring up 3rd and 8 for Fort Morgan.
Maybe these two teams are going to settle down and it's going to be a defensive struggle the rest of the night.
So 3rd down for Fort Morgan. Hernandez split left. Cody Davis to the right. I formation. Martin's under center. Takes the snap. Looks to pass. Looking downfield. Looking to Cody Davis, and it's going to be incomplete at the 30-yard line. That'll bring up 4th down. 4th and 8 for Fort Morgan on the incomplete pass.
There's a little incidental contact downfield. The ball was about 10 yards short on the throw. I was looking at why maybe Fort Morgan wasn't running Bohm up the middle, and there's one reason. Number 75, Dallas Raines, is a sophomore, 6'6", 280. I don't think our inside guys can move him enough to get Bohm any room.
Punt by Nate Alexander. We have a flag on the play. We have a punt landed at the 20, bouncing down to the 15, down to the 10, and marked at about the 9, but we have a flag back at about the line of scrimmage. Let's see what they've called here. They're going to call holding on Fort Morgan. And we'll see if they are going to make them re-kick.
I think they are.
That'll make it 4th down over again for Fort Morgan. We have, it looks like Nate Alexander is punting. So I'll bring up 4th down from the 29-yard line.
4th down and a long ways to go, about 22 yards, look like. What a great punt to be erased by a dumb penalty.
Snap back. Punt. Nice punt. Nice high punt at about the 40. And it's muffed and followed on by Fort Morgan. Jason Lenhart looks to be the one that has fallen on the ball for the Mustangs. The punt returner, it hit off his hands and went free, and Fort Morgan has picked it up. That'll make it 1st and 10 Fort Morgan from the Cardinal 41-yard line.
Wondering if the Cardinal coach would rather have that ball back down at the 18 after that other punt. But you always got to take a shot. You hope the kids perform.
So 1st and 10 in the I formation. Receivers left and right. Hands off up the middle. And is brought down at the 40. So we're going to call it a gain of 1. So it'll be 2nd and 9 from the 40.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really hard yards for him inside. I'd like to see him go with that pitch play to Davis and see if the corner is open outside. Because Elizabeth seems to just be piling everybody in the inside to stop that inside running game.
So 2nd and 9, Fort Morgan. 2 receivers right, 1 receiver split left. Actually, they're in their flex formation. We have a timeout, Fort Morgan. So with 6:43 left in the second period, Fort Morgan 13, Elizabeth 7. You're listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on B106 and B106.com. Welcome back to Elizabeth High School. Fort Morgan 13, the Cardinals 7. Second and 8, man in motion. Turns around and Martins keeps it. He gets about a yard. He'll be just down inside the 39-yard line. So we'll call it third and 7 from the 39.
On that play, they kind of got some motion going around the right end and faked the pitch, and then he just came around the other side. Elizabeth, to their credit, is really stuffing the inside with a 3-man front. They're playing like a 3-4.
A third down for Fort Morgan in the flex formation. Martin's back to pass, looking downfield, and has a man open. Cody Davis catches it. We'll see where they give him enough for a first down. Looks like it's going to be just short. So it'll bring up fourth and 1 from the 32-yard line for Fort Morgan.
Nice pass. Davis, that's the second really good catch. That time he laid out, was stretched out for it. Able to give us 4th and 1 instead of a 4th and 8. Good job, Cody.
Fort Morgan breaks the huddle up to the line in their flex formation. Nate Alexander is the deep man. Chris Pineda to the left. Martin's under center. And we'll see who they call it on. We'll see. There's a flag on the play.
I saw the center's head bob a little bit, but
looks like they're going to call it. They're going to call it on Fort Morgan. That'll be 4th and 6 from the 36-yard line. So Fort Morgan, with excellent field position, needs to take advantage of this. Drive this down the field, get some more points.
That's definitely an example of scouting. They probably saw the Skyview and Inglewood the week before, jumped several times on the hard count. This time Elizabeth was disciplined and Fort Morgan made the mistake.
4th down, I formation, receivers left and right. Pitches it to Nate Alexander, and he throws it deep. And it is caught by Cody Davis at the 5 into the end zone for a touchdown. Cody Davis from Nate Alexander for a 36-yard touchdown. That puts Fort Morgan up 19-7 with 4:52 left in the first half.
Wow. That's all I can say is wow, because Fort Morgan is not a passing team. And tonight, 3 passing touchdowns. The Elizabeth faithful, they really don't know what to say at this point.
So Jacob Frick in for the extra point try. Snap back, down, kick is up. And it is good. So that makes it Fort Morgan 20, Elizabeth 7 with 4:52 left in the first half. You're listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on B106 and B106.com. 20-7 the score with 4:52 left in the second period. Fort Morgan getting ready to kick off to Elizabeth. Ball is in the air. Beautiful kick downfield. Fielded at the 5, to the 10, 15, 20. And he is brought down at the 20. The ball is loose. Let's see, I believe they're going to call him. They're going to call him down at the 20. 1st and 10, Elizabeth at the 20-yard line.
Brian, our fans at home don't realize this, but earlier before the game we saw Fort Morgan alumni, current Denver Bronco tight end Joel Dreesen on the side lining out with the things. Maybe he's inspired the passing game to return to Fort Morgan. I don't know what it is, but he's brought good luck so far.
So 1st and 10, Elizabeth. 4:42 left in the second period. Handoff up the pitch out to the right side. And he is brought down by Oreo Conis, number 27, for Fort Morgan. 4-yard gain for Elizabeth. So it'll be 2nd and 6 from the 24.
Nicholas seems to be the go-to guy for Elizabeth tonight. That's his 6th carry.
So 2nd and 6 from the 24 for Fort Morgan, or for Elizabeth, I'm sorry. I formation, receiver split left and right. Takes the snap. Looking downfield, pumps once and goes deep down the right sideline, and it is going to be incomplete at the 40. That'll bring up 3rd and 6 for Elizabeth from the 24-yard line.
You know, with the numbers that all of her kids put up through the season, I certainly thought that his passing would be a lot better. You know, it's hard to tell, you know, maybe the stress of the situation or whatever, but so far he really has only had one pass that was really good and on target, and that was a short pass of 7 yards.
So 3rd and 6, Elizabeth from the 24. 2 receivers right, 1 split left with a tight end to the left. Single back formation, in the shotgun formation. Rolls out to his right and looks downfield for a pass, and it is knocked down. So that brings up a 4th and 6 by number 32, Kobe McBride. So 4th and 6 for Elizabeth with 3:49 left in the second period. Fort Morgan 20, Elizabeth 7.
Definitely enough time on the clock, 3:49 for Fort Morgan, if they can get some decent field position to go down there and score again and get maybe 27 unanswered points.
So punt, nice punt, coming down at the 42 to the 45 outside. Nate Alexander to the 50 to the 45, and he is down to about the 43-yard line of Elizabeth. So that'll bring up 1st and 10, Fort Morgan, from the Elizabeth 43-yard line.
Really nice return, just what they need with the clock being short.
So 1st and 10, Fort Morgan, leading 20-7 with 3:37 left in the second quarter. Fort Morgan to the line in a full house tee. Takes the ball, hands off to Nate Alexander, and he is brought down, and he gets a gain of about 1, possibly 2. We'll give him 2 to the 41, so that'll bring up 2nd and 8 from the 41.
You know, that time he had 2 blockers in front of him, but one of the defenders from inside got through the block and was able to tackle him before he got to the line of scrimmage. You're going to have to shore up that inside line somehow.
So 2nd and 8, Fort Morgan. 2 receivers left, 2 right. Handoff to Jared Bohm up the middle. And he bowls his way down to the 40. That'll be a gain of 1, so it'll be 3rd and 7 from the 40 for Fort Morgan.
Fort Morgan's just not able to get their running game going, but I guess the threat of the running game is enough to make their passing game viable.
So 3rd down from the 40. 2 receivers left, 2 receivers right. Cody Davis in motion to the right. Single back. Martins throws out the screen out to the pass out to the flat to Cody Davis. And he takes it down to about the 29-yard line. They're going to be just short of the 1st down. So that's going to bring up 4th and 1 from the 44. Or from the 34,
I don't think they're going to run that typical quarterback sneak with 75 in the middle, but if they can figure out which side he's shading and he can just go one side or the other, they might be able to get the 1 yard.
So 4th and 1, Fort Morgan. I formation, receivers left and right. Martin's under center. Takes the ball, and it is a keeper over the right side, and it will be enough for a 1st down. He is down to the 31-yard line. That's a gain of 4 to the 30, a gain of 3 to the 31-yard line. That brings up 1st down for Fort Morgan from the 31 with 1:35 and counting in the second period.
The problem with this strategy is we get 4 more runs, we get another 10 yards, and the clock's out. We're going to have to probably throw the ball.
So 1st and 10 from the 31. Receiver's right. Martin's back to pass, looks downfield, and looks to Cody Davis, and it is incomplete. That'll bring up 2nd and 10 from the 31-yard line for Fort Morgan.
Yeah, Martins is 2 for 8 on the night with 3 touchdowns. Well, actually, I guess Alexander had the 1 touchdown throw, but that's pretty good.
Fort Morgan has 2 timeouts left. So 3 receivers left, single back, 1 receiver to the right. Martins, it's a quick pass out to the right, off the hands of Cody Davis. So that is an incomplete pass. That'll bring up 3rd and 10, Fort Morgan, from the 31-yard line.
That one, Davis just was able to barely get his hands on it. He tipped it up, and I thought maybe the defensive cornerback was going to come up and snag that and have a pick 6. You want to try and score here, but you also want to preserve your 13-point lead going into halftime.
1:09 left in the first half. 3 receivers left. 1 right with a single back. Martin's under center, takes the ball, and then he fumbles it, picks it up. He does not pick it up. It looks like Elizabeth has fallen on the ball at the 29-yard line. So it'll be 1st and 10 Elizabeth after a fumble by James Martins. They're putting it at the 29-yard line, so it'll be 1st and 10 Elizabeth from the 29 with 1 minute left in the first half.
My guess is they're going to be trying to use the vertical game and get downfield.
So 1st and 10. Looks to throw it. A quick hit out to the left. This is be a completion and out of bounds at the 37-yard line. They'll bring up 2nd down. 2nd and 3 from the 37-yard line for Elizabeth. Elizabeth up to the line. 1 receiver left. 2 right with a single back. Back looking to pass out into the flat. It is an incomplete pass. That brings up 3rd down for Elizabeth. 3rd and 10 with 52 seconds left in the first half.
So Fort Morgan just needs to keep everybody in front of them and not allow them to get too far downfield on them.
So 3rd and 3. Elizabeth from the 36-yard line. 1 receiver left, 1 right, offset I formation. Quarterback back, looks a quick pass, and it is knocked down at the line of scrimmage.
Toby McBride with his big mitts got his hand up there. He's playing a great job at defensive nose guard for the Mustangs.
So that brings up 4th down. 4th and 3 from the 36 for Elizabeth with 48 seconds left in the first half. And they look like they're going to send in the punt team for Elizabeth.
I think that's pretty much a no-brainer.
Yeah. 48 seconds left. Nate Alexander, Ulysses Hernandez is deep. And we have a timeout for Fort Morgan. So 48 seconds left in the first half. Fort Morgan 20, Elizabeth 7. You're listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on B106 and B106.com. Back at Elizabeth High School, Elizabeth's ready to punt to Fort Morgan with 48 seconds left in the first half. And nobody deep for Fort Morgan. Ball bounces at the 35 and rolls down to the 30. It'll be 1st and 10 Fort Morgan from the 30 with 38 seconds left in the first half.
All the way back at their own 30-yard line, 1st and 10, 38 seconds left in the half.
So Fort Morgan taking no chances on a muff punt. they will just take the ball from the 30 and run the clock out to the halftime. So 1st and 10, Fort Morgan from the 30. Nate Alexander deep. Looks like they're just going to go into the... See if they're just going to kneel on the ball. And they do. Take one knee. And I don't believe they'll have to run another play. We'll see what they do. It makes it 2nd and 10. No, 2nd and 11 from the 29 after the kneel down. With 18 seconds left in the first period, Fort Morgan will not run another play. So at the end of the first half, Fort Morgan 20, Elizabeth 7. You're listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on B106 and B106.com. Welcome back to Elizabeth High School in Elizabeth, Colorado. Fort Morgan leading the host Cardinals 20-7. Getting ready to start the second half. Barry Kimball getting his tee set up. Elizabeth will receive the ball to start the second half. So we'll be ready to go here in a couple of seconds here.
You know, Brian, we are noticing at half as the teams get out. Fort Morgan seems excited, fired up. Elizabeth seems a little bit down. Hopefully that bodes well for the Mustangs as the game continues.
So there's the kickoff down to the 10, back to the 15, to the 20, 25, 20, we'll say out to the 28-yard line. That's where they're going to mark it. So it'll be 1st and 10 Elizabeth from the 28. So 1st and 10 Elizabeth from the 28. In the haven't broke there. The quarterback is just now coming out onto the field with the play.
Don't seem to be any kind of hurry. No urgency.
So offset eye, receivers left and right. Under center takes the snap, looks left to pass, and it is off the hands of the wide receiver at about the 34-yard line. That'll bring up 2nd and 10 for Elizabeth from the 28.
You know, Oliver a little bit off on that pass. The receiver, you know, had to really reach out, barely got his fingertips on it. I don't know if he's just having a bad night, but Fort Morgan needs to continue to play good defense.
So 2nd down, receivers left and right, offset eye, takes the ball, hands off over the right side for a gain of about 2. We're going to call it third. We're going to give them 3 yards. So it'll be 3rd and 7 from the 31 for Elizabeth.
Just a fullback dive there, probably to keep Fort Morgan somewhat honest. Fort Morgan responded with a good defensive stop.
So 3rd and 7 Elizabeth. 2 receivers left, 1 right, single back. Back to pass, looking over to the left, and he is open out at the 30 to the 35 and down at the 40. So it looks like that will be enough for a first down at the 40-yard line. Looks like Fort Morgan has a player down on the far sideline. Seems to be Ulysses Hernandez. He is up now and walking off the field. So that's a good sign. So it'll be 1st and 10 Elizabeth from the 40.
Wonder who they'll stick in at safety for them. You know, Ulysses plays a great deal of defense for us.
So 1st and 10 Elizabeth from the 40. 10:57 and counting in the third period. Offset eye, receivers left and right. Quarterback is a keeper and pitches it out to the right side, out to the 45, to the 50, 45, and pushed out of bounds by Arreo Canas. That's a gain of 15 down to the 45 of Fort Morgan. So the 1st and 10, Elizabeth from the 45.
First run by number 12, Logan Weber. He had a lot of offense for him in the past. Maybe he's the one that they're going to get the spark from.
So 1st and 10, Elizabeth at the 40. Receivers left and right. Offset formation. Ball at the 45. Quarterback hands off. Nope, he is sacked. He was going to be a quick pass to the left, and it was not open, and he is dropped for about a 4-yard loss back to the 49-yard line.
Great defense.
Monaco Carrillo with the sack.
Yeah, really good job of just stuffing the fullback, and when he looked to throw downfield, there were defensive linemen in his face, and they brought him down.
So 2nd and 14 from the 49. 2 receivers right, 1 left. Single back formation. Back to pass. Looking down, it's going to be a screen pass. Down to the 45, to the 40, to the 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Elizabeth from the 49-yard line. That brings the score to 20-13. Fort Morgan with 9:53 left in the third period.
Yeah, well-executed screenplay. We talked off air, but I think at half about the screenplay of Fort Morgan's vulnerability to that. And that was wide open. He had 2 blockers downfield. A really good attempt by the defense to get to him. Maybe a block in the back, but it was a good play for a touchdown.
So point attempt is up and good. So that brings the score 20-14. Fort Morgan with 9:53 left in the third period. You're listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on B106 and B106.com. Welcome back to Elizabeth High School. Elizabeth getting ready to kick off to Fort Morgan after they've just scored. There is an onside kick, and it is taken at the 43-yard line by Austin Cosman. So the 1st and 10 Fort Morgan from the 43-yard line.
Not sure why Elizabeth's kicking that way. They had one where they kind of pushed it high in the air to about the 25, and we fair caught it. They had one where they kicked deep, and we ran it back to about the 45, and now this one where they just kicked it on the ground to the 45. I think special teams, Fort Morgan is definitely outplaying Elizabeth.
Fort Morgan in the I formation. Receivers split left and right. Martin's under center. Hands off up the middle to Jared Bohm. And he will be stopped for about a 1-yard gain to the 45. So it'll be 2nd and 9, Fort Morgan from the 45-yard line.
Fort Morgan's going to have to figure out some way to get more than 1 or 2 yards on first down.
So 2nd and 9, I formation, receivers left and right. 3- and 4-man front. Handoff to Nate Alexander over the right side. And there is not much room there. He is out to the 46-yard line for a gain of 1. So it's going to bring up a 3rd and 8 from the 46.
You know, Fort Morgan's running slow developing plays, and it seems like before they get to where they want to hand off the ball, the whole Elizabeth team's there. If you watch, I don't know if they have some sort of a tendency to run a certain way, but the whole defense team seems to start shifting one direction, and they're always shifting right into where the play is. So some sort of crossbuck might work better.
So 3rd and 8, I formation, receivers left and right. Martin's back to pass, flushed it out to the right, out to the left, I'm sorry, and he is brought down at the 45-yard line, so that will be a sack, be a loss of 1. That'll bring up 4th and 9 from the 45 for Fort Morgan. So we'll see who comes in. Nate Alexander is punting tonight. I don't know if Tony Swetzig, I believe Tony Swetzig did kick the first time, but he has not been out since. So Elizabeth has their receiver back at about the 15-yard line. Nate Alexander lined up at the 30. Nice punt. coming down at the 21, and it is muffed, and we'll see who is falling on it. It looks like Fort Morgan has fallen on the ball, yes, at the 23-yard line. That's the second muffed punch tonight that they have mishandled and given the ball back to Fort Morgan. So it'll be 1st and 10, Fort Morgan from the Elizabeth 23-yard line.
And not a very good job of coaching there. Fort Morgan kid, first one down, has a chance to get the ball, tries to catch it on the bounce and run with it. Got to coach him up that you can't advance the muff punt and get him to just fall on that ball and hold it. Luckily, Fort Morgan did keep it, and here's a golden opportunity to push it in.
1st and 10, Fort Morgan. Handoff to Nate Alexander over the right side. He is down to the 20. So it'll be a gain of 3. Looks like they've set it up about the 23, so it'll be a gain of 3, so it'll be 2nd and 7 from the 20.
Yeah, nice play where they run with that full power backfield and have 2 lead blockers. Maybe run a fake out of that and have the second back cross over to the other side, might catch a over-aggressive Elizabeth defense.
So 2nd down, Martin's under center, full house backfield, hands off up the middle to, I believe it's Toby McBride that's in there right now. He gets down to the 23, down to the 18-yard line for a gain of 2, so that'll bring up 3rd and 5.
His first carry of the night. He's been doing a really good job of playing nose guard on the defensive end and probably giving Boehm a little bit of a break and maybe seeing if we can get something else working inside there.
So 3rd and 5, Fort Morgan from the 18, full house backfield. Nate Alexander deep, handoff around the left side. Not much there. It's going to be a gain. It looks like it'll be 4th and still 5. There was no gain on the play. That was Jared Boehm. Chris Pineda with the carry that time. So it's 4th down for Fort Morgan from the 24. Fort Morgan up under center, tight formation, T formation, and Martin's is the keeper for Martin, and it's a pass to Chris Pineda at the 15, to the 10, to the 5, and he is into the end zone for a Fort Morgan touchdown. Chris Pineda from James Martin's. 4 passing touchdowns tonight for the Mustangs. That puts the score 26-14 Fort Morgan with 5:49 left in the 3rd period.
As the old saying goes, who'd have thunk that? That is fantastic. Boy, they had a fooled there. It's play action. They thought it was that same old play. Everybody's selling out to stop the run, and here comes Pineda just opening up over just outside the linebackers.
Extra point try is up and good. That brings it 27-14 Fort Morgan with 5:49 left in the 3rd period. You're listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on B106 and B106.com. Back at Elizabeth High School, Fort Morgan getting ready to kick off to Elizabeth after an 18-yard pass to Chris Pineda. There is the kickoff, and it is going to be caught at the 8, out to the 15, the 20, 25, and Arreo Conis meets him at the 24-yard line and brings him down. So it'll be 1st and 10, Elizabeth from the 20, let's see where they mark it. It's going to be at the 24, so it'll be 1st and 10, Elizabeth from the 24.
That last play by Pineda, his first touchdown of the season.
We're getting guys some action that they haven't seen too much of this year. So 1st and 10, Elizabeth, 2 receivers left, single back, 1 receiver to the right. Birch back to pass. He's scrambling, and now he's headed upfield to the 30 and brought down at the 30 is where they're going to mark us. That's a gain of 5. So it'll be 2nd and 5 from the 30.
Good pass defense downfield, and unfortunately the pocket just kind of broke apart. He was able to get through that. He's quite an athlete.
So 2nd and 5, they're putting it at the 31. So 2nd and 4 from the 31. for Elizabeth. Handoff up the middle. Bucknam with a carry out to about the 24-yard line. So it'll bring up 3rd and 1 from the 24 for Elizabeth.
Yeah, Bucknam runs hard off that in that fullback position. He only has about 2 steps before he's at the line of scrimmage. Really quick hitter. That's what I'd like Fort Morgan to somehow come up with, is a quick hitter a little bit more off to one side or the other where the big defensive nose guard isn't there.
So 3rd and short for Elizabeth. Handoff up the middle. Oh, there's the keeper out around the left, out around the right side. And the quarterback takes it out to the 44-yard line. So that was a gain of about 10 yards for Elizabeth. So 1st and 10, Elizabeth from the 45-yard line.
On that play, he just wrote the fullback in there until he was sure that the fullback was going to be stopped, and he pulled it out. Looked a little like he tripped going around the outside, but he regained his footing and got 11 yards.
So 1st and 10, Elizabeth from their own 45-yard line. 2 receivers left, 1 right. Shotgun formation. Takes off to the left, out to the 50, to the 45, and down to the 44-yard line of Fort Morgan. So that is enough for a first down for Elizabeth. So 1st and 10, Elizabeth from the Fort Morgan 44-yard line.
2 11-yard runs for Oliver. As we said at the offset, he's one of their leading rushers, and good pass, or Fort Morgan's going to have to figure out who's responsible for getting the quarterback on that.
So Elizabeth up to the line, receivers left and right, I formation. Handoff up the middle this time, and it's a strong run down to the 35. So it'll be 2nd and 1 from the 35 for Elizabeth. Second and 1 from the 35.
Sounds like Hernandez is back in the game. This is a good sign.
Elizabeth, 1 receiver left, 1 right. Offset I formation. Takes the snap, back to pass. Pass downfield, and it is going to be incomplete, in and out of the hands of the receiver at about the 25-yard line. So that brings up 3rd and 1 from the 25. From the 35, excuse me.
Right, now that pass play, you can't blame Oliver. He had it right in the hands of his receiver. Maybe the receiver heard the footsteps of the upcoming Fort Morgan charge and just let one in.
Garrett Strobel was hot on his heels, that's for sure. So 2:44 left in the 3rd period. Elizabeth 3rd and 1 from the 35. It's a keeper around the right side, and it is going to be dropped for a loss. It was pitched back to Logan Weber, and that was a loss of about 1 to the 36. That'll bring up 4th and 2 from the 36.
Defensive end here, Fort Morgan can stop them from getting this first down. That would definitely put a hole in their momentum.
So Elizabeth, 4th and 2 from the 30. Takes as a quarterback sneak up the middle. He seems to be far enough. They're stopping the clock. They're marking him down about the 33-yard line. So that'll be enough for let's see where they mark it. They marking it, we'll call it at the 33-yard line. So it'll be 1st and 10, Elizabeth from the 33-yard line. Elizabeth up to the line, 1 receiver left, 1 right, offset I formation. Puts the man in motion to the right, handoff to the left side. He is hit about the time he gets the ball, but he is going to get, let's see if he might, we'll call it and 9 from the 32-yard line for Elizabeth.
Elizabeth very balanced in their attack, running the ball 24 times and passing it 12 times. They have 3 running backs that all have 7 or more attempts.
So Elizabeth, 2 receivers left, offset I formation. Takes the ball, looks to throw. Quick hit out to the left. Man wide open at about the 25. Fort Morgan is on him there. So that'll be down to the 25. He'll be about 2 yards short of the first down. So it'll be 3rd and 2 from the 25 for Elizabeth. So 3rd and 2, 35 seconds and counting left in the third period. Fort Morgan 27, Elizabeth 14. Elizabeth offset I formation, receivers left and right. Quarterback takes it, hands off up the middle. That will be enough for a first down to about the 18-yard line. And we're going to see how far they get it. They're calling him. They're giving him enough for a first down, so it's just inside the 18. So it'll be 1st and 10, Elizabeth from the 23-yard line. So that is the end of the third period. Fort Morgan 27, Elizabeth 14. You're listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on B106 and B106.com. Back at Elizabeth High School with Kevin Rohde, I'm Brian Nickel. Fort Morgan 27, Elizabeth 14. Elizabeth on the move with a 1st and 10 at the 22 at the start of the fourth period.
The clock is now on Fort Morgan's side, but if Elizabeth gets a couple touchdowns and gets ahead, then it may swing back around. But if Fort Morgan can force Elizabeth to use up an awful lot of time to score and then march down and get another score, I think we can start celebrating.
So 1st and 10, Elizabeth from the 22 at the start of the fourth quarter. Single back formation. Tight formation. Hands off around the left end. He is down to the 15 and down to the 10, but we have a flag about the 21, which is usually a sign of a hold, but we will see what the referees. Yes, it is a hold on Elizabeth. So that'll negate that nice run for Elizabeth. So that will bring up, see where they mark it off from. That'll bring up first down, first and 20. We have a referee timeout on the field. Marking it at the 31 at the moment. That would make it 2nd and 19, or 1st and 19 at the 31. So we'll see what they're discussing. Coach Chisholm brought something to the referee's attention. I'm not sure just what they're looking at.
Both coaches are interested in what the outcome of this discussion is going to be.
We'll see what they're still discussing, and I'm not sure just what they're looking. Now it's going to be 1st and 20. They marked it at the 32. I am not sure what the...
Maybe the discussion was whether it's from the spot of the foul or the original line of scrimmage.
So 1st down and 20. 2 receivers right, 1 single back, 1 receiver left. Back to throw, getting some pressure, and he's in the open, running it down to the 25, to the 20, and he's tripped up and taken down at the 17-yard line. So he gets all of the yardage back on the penalty, plus some, so that'll bring up 2nd and 5 from the 17.
You know, when I played defensive end, we always had one of the defensive line. We always had one of the defensive linemen assigned as kind of to watch for the draw, watch for the quarterback, watch for the screen. And it seems like Fort Morgan, all of them are trying to get back. And unfortunately, when they get there, he's not there.
So 2nd and 5 from the 17 for Elizabeth. Shotgun formation, receivers left and right, single back. Into the keeper up the middle by the quarterback to the 10, down to the 8-yard line. So that will bring up a 1st and goal for Elizabeth from the 8.
There's another nice run where he faked it to one receiver, and everybody jumped on him, and Oliver pulled it and ran the other way.
So 1st and goal from the 8 for Elizabeth. Tight formation with one single back. Puts the man in motion from left to right. And it's a handoff up the middle. And it's a gain down to about the 2, maybe the 3. That'll bring up 2nd and goal from the 3, I believe. Yeah, 2nd and goal from the 3 for Elizabeth.
All of a sudden, Elizabeth's inside running game seems to be picking up strength, and Fort Morgan, needs to find an answer for that like they had in the first half.
So 2nd and goal, tight formation, single back, puts the man in motion right to left. It's a handoff to that man from the 5, and he will be, if they give him the touchdown, so he's 3 yards out. Elizabeth goes in for the touchdown. So with 9:48 left in the 4th period, that brings the score Fort Morgan 27, Elizabeth 20, with a point after try coming up.
So Fort Morgan's going to have to get motivated and get down and score one more time.
So Elizabeth lining up for the extra point. Snap back, kick down, kick up, and it is good. So that makes it 27-21. Fort Morgan with 9:48 left in the game. You're listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on B106 and B106.com. Back at Elizabeth High School, Elizabeth getting ready to kick off to Fort Morgan, and it has been hit by Fort Morgan, so they do need to run it. So Nate Alexander at the 5, at the 10, and he is brought down at about the 11-yard line. So that'll make it first and 10, Fort Morgan. From the 10, it looks like they're marching it. So 1st and 10, Fort Morgan from the 10.
First break for Elizabeth on special teams. They split that kick, and it bounces high over the Fort Morgan return man. Almost bounced all the way into the end zone. If it would have bounced another yard, we would have gotten it out on the 20 and would have had to stress.
So 1st and 10, high formation. Martin's under center, takes it, hands off up the middle, and not much there. Maybe they're not even giving me a yard. We're going to call it 2nd and... Now they're going to mark it about the 11, so we'll give it 2nd and 9 from the 11 for Fort Morgan.
I know you don't want to get too creative in the shadow of your own goalpost, but the plays that we're running don't seem to be getting us any positive yardage.
The Fort Morgan now in their flex formation, receivers left and right. Cody Davis in motion to the left, gets the pitch to the right, and he is dropped at the 10. That'll be a loss of 1 back to the original line of scrimmage. So that'll bring up 3rd and 10 for Fort Morgan with 8:53 and counting in the contest.
Elizabeth's defense seems to have the answer for whatever Fort Morgan throws at them, except for the passing plays, I guess. You hate to pass at this point, this deep, but you've got to get a first down and get some field position.
So Fort Morgan up to the line, 3 receivers right, 1 left, single back. Martins looks to pass. It is an incomplete pass out about the 20, so that will stop the clock with 8:25 left in the game. That brings up 4th and 10 for Fort Morgan from their 10-yard line.
Not sure whether Elizabeth wants to have someone trying to catch this punt or not. I think I just let it bounce with the experience they've had so far tonight.
They do have a receiver back about midfield. Nate Alexander back to punt. The 4th and 10 for Fort Morgan. There is the snap, and it is left, and he is going to be tackled in the end zone for a safety. They said the ball was fumbled, and they have given Elizabeth a touchdown, I believe. So that brings the score 27-27 with 8:22 left in the game. Nate Alexander did not handle the snap. It was kind of low, and he didn't get a good grip on it. And he was hit and apparently lost the ball, and Elizabeth fell on it for the touchdown.
After Elizabeth took the ball, and it is a touchdown. Probably a touchdown by 3.
Well, I guess it's gut check time now for Fort Morgan, as they're going to have to take this kickoff and march down and score.
We'll see if the kick is up, and it is good. So that puts Elizabeth up 28-27 with 8:22 left in the fourth quarter. You're listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on B106 and B106.com. Back at Elizabeth. Elizabeth has now taken the lead, 28-27, with 8:22 left in the fourth period. They will kick off to Fort Morgan. So there is the kick at about the 30, 35, 40. That's where he will be down at. So it will be 1st and 10 Fort Morgan from the 40-yard line.
33 cents a goal right in on the tackle.
Fort Morgan's going to have to come up with an answer for Elizabeth's defense and get downfield. And I don't think that answer has to necessarily be to the pass play, but possibly some screens or some draw plays of their own.
So 1st and 10, Fort Morgan in the flex formation from the 40. Martin's under center. Chris Pineda in motion to the left. Pitch to Pineda, and he has fumbled the ball. Never got a clean catch on the pitch. So we'll see who has fallen on the ball. They're unpiling it as we speak and watch here.
Boy, this would be pretty much a big play.
It is second down. Chris Pineda got back on top of the ball. That is going to be a loss of about
Still a very good defensive play by York Cardinals.
5 yards, so it'll bring up 2nd and 15 from the 36-yard line.
Certainly not the play that I had in mind, but maybe if he got the pitch, he would have gotten some positive yardage. Good job of just getting back on top of it.
So 2nd and 15, Fort Morgan from the 36. Flex formation. Martin's back to pass. Looking downfield, and it is caught. Nope, incomplete, in and out of the hands of Cody Davis at about the 43-yard line. That brings up 3rd and 15 for Fort Morgan from the 36.
Wonder if the coaching staff's noticing that they're giving us about 15 yards on the outside. We don't have to go for it all. If we do a 10-yard out, get 10 yards on this play, then it'd make 4th down much more manageable.
Martin coming back into the huddle from the sidelines with the play. 7:24 left in the period. 28-27. Elizabeth. Fort Morgan in their flex formation. Receivers left and right. Pineda in motion. Looks to throw downfield, and in and out of the hands of Ulysses Hernandez at about the 49. It was there. That brings up 4th and 15. 4th and 15 for Fort Morgan from the 36 with 7:19 left in the fourth quarter.
That was a well-conceived play. They executed it perfectly, except at the end the catch wasn't made.
So Nate Alexander back to punt. Elizabeth has a receiver back about the 25. Better snap. Got the punt off this time. He is going to receive it at the 35 and taken down at the 35-yard line. So that's where Elizabeth will take over. 1st and 10 from their own 35-yard line, leading 28-27 with 7:10 left in the 4th period.
And now the clock, Elizabeth's going to want to run that clock and let it, go down as much as possible. Fort Morgan's going to have a pretty quick stop, not on the first 3 plays, definitely before they get very deep into Fort Morgan territory.
So 1st and 10, Elizabeth from the 36. Offset eye, receivers left and right. Snap, pitch back to the right, and it is going to be a pass downfield well over the head of the intended receiver. That'll bring up 2nd and 10 from the 36 for Elizabeth.
Yeah, Weber has several completions on the season. They must be from that particular play. Fort Morgan's defense definitely bit on that. If he would have took about 5 yards off of that, we would have been looking at Elizabeth kicking another extra point. Fort Morgan's got to be careful not to bring too many people up the box and put too much stress on stopping the run, because Elizabeth will take advantage of that.
So 2nd and 10 from the 36, offset eye, receivers left and right. Handoff up the middle, and he's hit at the line of scrimmage, but drives out to the 40-yard line for a gain of 4. So they'll bring up 3rd and 6 from the 40 for Elizabeth.
Buckham's still running hard deep into the 4th quarter. Fort Morgan's still trying to tackle him high, and he's bouncing off those first tackles. If we could get the defensive lineman to attack him lower down, we might be able to hold him for no gain.
So 3rd and 6 from the 40 for Elizabeth. 6:32 and counting in the contest. Offset eye, looking to throw. Pass out to the left, and it is caught at the 45-yard line. So that's a gain of 5. That brings up 4th and 1 from the 45 for Elizabeth. So they're sending out the punt team, so 4th and 1 for Elizabeth. Nate Alexander going deep for Fort Morgan, lining up about the 18-yard line. Snap back, high snap. Punt lands at the 30 and gets the Elizabeth roll. It rolls down to the 22-yard line. You're listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on B106 and B106.com. Fort Morgan 1st and 10 with a run over the left side. Short gain of, it looks like he was hit at the line of scrimmage, so it's going to be a no gain. So it's 2nd and 10, Fort Morgan from the 22.
Fort Morgan having no success whatsoever running up the middle against Elizabeth. Elizabeth still putting 7, 8 guys in the box to stop that run.
So 2nd and 10. Formation bunch, 3 bunch receivers to the right with one back. Cody Martins with a run out to the left, out to the 30. About the 31. He's going to be just short of the first down. They're going to mark him just outside the 30. So that'll bring up 3rd and 1 from the 31.
On that play, they packed everybody inside, and then they had one lineman pull and one back go around the outside. He was able to make a nice run and make it manageable on 3rd and 1.
So with 4:27 left in the game, 28-27 Elizabeth. Fort Morgan 3rd and 1. Receivers bunch to the left. Martins looks to pass. Out to the left. If he'll tuck it and run, he will get the first down, and he does get the first down. He is out to the 39-yard line for Fort Morgan. So that is a first down.
Martin's running hard. I think he wants to get down there and score and get to the playoffs.
They're going to mark it at the 39. So 1st and 10 from the 39. Fort Morgan with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. 28-27 Elizabeth. Fort Morgan to the line. 3 receivers to the right, a bunch. And then a handoff up the middle. That is going to be a no gain for Fort Morgan. Jared Bohm with the carry. They're going to be a yard loss. So it'll be 2nd and 11 from the 38-yard line.
To show you how our inside running is, that's Bohm's 4th carry, and he's got 2 yards.
So 2nd and 11, Fort Morgan. 3 receivers bunched just to the right of the line of scrimmage. Martin's back. It's the keeper around the right side. He is going to go down at the 39-yard line. That's going to get him back to the original line of scrimmage. It'll be 3rd and 10. Fort Morgan from the 39.
And now Elizabeth's going to be looking for the pass. Of course, I think they're somewhat looking for the pass at this point in the game anyway. You know, clock's running and Fort Morgan's taking their time in the huddle.
So 3rd and 10 from the 40, from the 39. Timeout, Fort Morgan. So with 2:36 left in the fourth period, Elizabeth 28, Fort Morgan 27. You're listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on B106 and B106.com. Welcome back to Elizabeth High School. Elizabeth 28, Fort Morgan 27, with 2:36 left in the fourth period. It is 3rd and 10 for Fort Morgan from their own 39-yard line. Three receivers to the left. Martin looks past, and his arm is hit as he throws, so it's going to be an incomplete pass. So that brings up 4th and 10 from the 39 for Fort Morgan.
It just took a little too long for that pass play to develop. You know, Chisholm thinking it's better to have everybody packed in and send 3 receivers from one spot from a tight formation. It's down to 1 play at this point, because I think if Elizabeth gets the ball, it's going to be pretty hard for Fort Morgan to ever get it back.
So they're going for it. 4th and 10 from the 39 for Fort Morgan. So 1 receiver right, single back, 3 receivers to the left in a bunch formation. Martin rolls out to the left, and he throws downfield, and is caught by Cody Davis down at the Elizabeth 40-yard line. First down, Fort Morgan.
There is hope, Fort Morgan faithful. There is hope. Fort Morgan's still alive with 2:25 left in the fourth quarter.
So 1st and 10, Fort Morgan at the 39-yard line of Elizabeth.
Boy, Davis did a really good job of finding a hole in that defense and just sitting there waiting for that ball to get there. And Martin's delivered a strike.
So 1st and 10, Fort Morgan from the 39. Receivers bunch to the right. Martin rolls out to the right, looking for a receiver, and throws it, and it is going to be almost intercepted, but dropped at about the 28-yard line. That brings up 2nd and 10, Fort Morgan from the 39, with 2:15 left in the game.
Scary moment there as the only person that had a chance to catch, and that was the Elizabeth cornerback coming up to make the play.
So Martin's back to the huddle. 2nd and 10 from the 39 for Fort Morgan. Elizabeth leading 28-27. Receivers bunch to the right. 1 receiver left, single back. Martin's under center. Straight back, looks for a receiver, and is going downfield, and this time it is intercepted by Elizabeth at the 15. He is out to the 20, 25, 30. And then there was a late hit at the 35 by Fort Morgan. So that will be a first down for Elizabeth with 2:02 left in the game. He went out at the 35. And I'm sure there will be a 15-yard penalty against Fort Morgan. So that will take the ball out to the 50. That ball's thrown a little bit high. If Fort Morgan's defender or receiver would have jumped a little bit higher, I think they would have gotten the defender for going over the back. But as is, he just went over the top and got the ball. Then ran a nice return, and one of the offensive linemen just trying to get over there. I don't think it was necessarily a hard hit. I think he just couldn't stop himself, bumped into him. But regardless, it's 15 yards, and now Fort Morgan's in trouble. They used their one timeout earlier after they let time run off. I don't know how many timeouts they have left, so with 2 minutes left, I think Elizabeth should be able to pretty much run the clock out. So 1st and 10, Elizabeth at the 50, tight formation. Single back in the backfield. Handoff up the middle for a gain of 2 down to the 48-yard line. So it'll bring up 2nd and 8 for Elizabeth from the 48-yard line.
You can bet that Elizabeth's going to take their time and let this clock go all the way down as far as the officials will let it.
So 2nd and 8 from the 48 of Fort Morgan. Single back. Man in motion. Hands off to that man in motion around the right side. He's going to be dropped for a loss back to the 46-yard line of Elizabeth. Fort Morgan has called a timeout. 1 minute and 21 seconds left in the game. 8-7 Elizabeth. A word from one of our sponsors, Ackley Building Center, your one-stop center for projects around your home, office, or yard, and they now carry appliances. Ackley Building Center, located at 1402 Mill Street in Brush. Buildings by Design in Brush takes pride in their workmanship and quality of their relationships with clients. For a free bid, call Pat Walter at 842-5837. Buildings Today's Business, Buildings by Design. Premier Farm Credit, committed to serving those in production ag. Premier Farm Credit, the gold standard in ag lending. Central Auto Parts, for the best prices and special offers on top quality car parts and accessories. Visit Central Auto Parts at 1001 West Platte Avenue in Fort Morgan. So 1 minute and 21 seconds left in the game. Elizabeth 28, Fort Morgan 27. Third and 13 from the 47. Elizabeth looking to throw, and it is incomplete at the 45-yard line. So that stops the clock with 1 minute and 15 seconds left. So it's now 4th and 13. It looks like Fort Morgan will have a chance to get the ball back.
Yeah, not sure why Elizabeth wouldn't have taken 30 seconds off the clock. Here they're going to punt, hopefully trap Fort Morgan in deep, long field position.
So the punt, it was slightly blocked, but it gets an excellent Elizabeth roll, and it's going to roll down to the 8-yard line. So it's going to be a long haul for Fort Morgan to get back in position to either try and get a field goal or try to get into the end zone for a touchdown. So the minute 7 left in the game. Elizabeth 28, Fort Morgan 27, 1st and 10 from the 9-yard line for Fort Morgan.
The Fort Morgan's going to have to run some intermediate routes, not try and get it all at once, but get 10, 15, 20 yards at a pop, get up to the line of scrimmage before they're resetting the chains and move. Certainly not our strength, but I think we can do it if we try.
So 1st and 10, 2 receivers left, 2 receivers right. Martin's looking deep to throw. He's being flushed out to the right. Now he takes it. He is down at about the 12-yard line. So Fort Morgan has called a timeout with 55 seconds left in the game. 28-27 Elizabeth. You're listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on B106 and B106.com. Back at Elizabeth High School, Elizabeth 28, Fort Morgan 27. Along with Kevin Rohde, I'm Brian Nickel. Fort Morgan has the ball, 2nd and 7 from their own 12-yard line. So we'll see what they come up with. We have 2 receivers to the right, 2 receivers left. Single back in the shotgun formation. Martins waits for the snap, takes the snap, looks downfield, and the pass out, and it's going to be intercepted by Elizabeth at the 23-yard line. That's going to pretty much put the cap on the game. 51 seconds left in the game. 28-27. Elizabeth, they're 1st and 10 from the 24.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and predict that they're going to end up the Metro East champions for this year. Fort Morgan's now at the mercy of the Polsters and the other teams they played, and hope that everybody they played wins tonight, wins the next 2 games, so that they can hopefully get up there in the wild card.
So 1st and 10, Elizabeth taking over after an interception at the 24-yard line. They will just kneel on the ball. 48 seconds and counting. 2nd and 11 from the 25.
A big round of applause for the Fort Morgan touchdown.
From the 20.
And their fans are coming all the way down here.
From the 25. So 30 seconds and counting. Probably be about the last play of the game. 25 seconds. Waiting for the... That was the last play of the game. Elizabeth 28, Fort Morgan 27. You're listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on B106 and B106.com. Back at Elizabeth High School, Elizabeth 28, Fort Morgan 27. Fort Morgan let one slip out of their hands. They were in control at halftime, 20-7. And then they let it get away from them. The scoring started with Elizabeth with 9:53 left in the third period on a screen pass to Logan Weber for 49 yards. And the extra point was good, made it 20-14 at that time. Fort Morgan then took possession of the ball and got a touchdown pass to Chris Pineda for 18 yards. Made the score with the extra point 27-14. Elizabeth then took the ball and had a 15-play drive that ended in a 2-yard touchdown run, and the ensuing extra point made it 27-21. And Elizabeth scored their last touchdown as Fort Morgan was backed up to their own end zone and were set to punt. And on the snap, it was fumbled in the end zone by Nate Alexander and fallen on by Elizabeth in the extra point. And that made the score where it stands at the final, 28-27. We'll take a short break, and then we'll be back with second half stats. You've been listening to Fort Morgan Mustangs football on B106 and B106.com.